Dear students and my teacher friends, Namaskar. I welcome you to the presentation lecture on esophagus. Now, before I start this presentation lecture, I would like to tell you few things regarding this lecture. That in this presentation lecture, there are total 10 theory points, and I'm going to explain all these theory points with the help of the figures. So for each and every theory points, I have correlated these theory points with the figures. Now amongst these 10 theory points, point number 4 to 7 are the important one for you. And the so as I told you that the point number 4, the important information regarding the esophagus we are going to discuss, and if you want you can directly jump onto the point number 4, but you can understand I cannot jump directly on the point number 4, so I'm starting this presentation lecture from the point number 1. Okay, so the point number 1, what is esophagus? Okay, so as you can see, the esophagus, the literally the meaning of esophagus is to carry food. Okay, so the tube which carry food, or the tube in which the bolus or the food passes, that tube is known as the esophagus. Now the length of esophagus, so it is 25 centimeter, that is 10-inch long, and when the food is not passing, that time it collapses. Okay, so we can say when the food is not passing, it is relaxed, it is soft. Okay, that is the meaning of collapsing. Now here, as you can see this point, so in the process of swallowing I have explained this point. Once again I am explaining this point. For example, over here we know from our mouth the bolus enters into the oropharynx, and then the bolus moves into the laryngopharynx. Now when the bolus is at laryngopharynx and it is about to enter into esophagus, at that time this is the epiglottis, and this epiglottis is present on the top of the larynx. Okay, and this larynx we know present on the upper part of the trachea. Okay, so when the bolus is about to enter this esophagus, that time there are the chances that the food particle can enter into the larynx, and from the larynx to rest of the respiratory tract. So to avoid this situation, the epiglottis closes the opening of the larynx, so the food particle cannot enter in the larynx, and the bolus easily enters into the esophagus. So that is the meaning of the first point. Now moving on the second point, the location of esophagus, where in the body the esophagus is present. So esophagus is present in the mediastinum of the thorax. So in the middle of thorax, as you can see, in the middle of the thorax, this esophagus is present, and this esophagus is piercing the diaphragm. It pierces the diaphragm, and after piercing the diaphragm, it enters into abdomen. For example, over here, as you can see, this is the esophagus. It is piercing this diaphragm. Okay, so it is piercing at the point of esophageal hiatus, and then this esophagus enters into abdominal cavity and it joins with the stomach. Okay, so that is the meaning of the second point. Okay, where exactly the esophagus is present. So I am showing you one more figure so that you can get the idea where exactly in our body the esophagus is present. For example, in this figure, this is the esophagus, and as you can see, this is the diaphragm, and this esophagus is piercing the diaphragm, and this esophagus is joining the stomach. Okay, so with this figure you will get the idea, okay, how this esophagus is present in the middle of the thorax and how it is piercing the diaphragm and how it is joining the stomach. So that is the second point of our discussion. Now moving on the third point of our discussion. Now that is about the structures which are present in the wall of esophagus, or we can say the histology of esophagus, or we can say what the wall of esophagus is made up of. So for example, this is the esophagus, and if you take the cross section and if you observe the wall of esophagus under the microscope, so we will find that there are four layers. This one is the first layer, okay, that is known as the mucosa. Then the second one is the submucosa. Third one is Muscularis Externa, and the last one, the outer one, is the Adventitia. Okay, so there are four layers. Now I know this is a bit difficult to understand the arrangement of this layer, so that's why I'm showing you one more figure so that you can get the idea. For example, over here, as you can see, this is the esophagus, this one is the esophagus, and this is the lumen of esophagus. So the layer which is present around the lumen of esophagus, that layer is known as the esophageal mucosa. And after the esophageal mucosa, the submucosa is present. So mucosa, this is the mucosa. Mucosa is followed by submucosa, okay, and over here also this is the mucosa. Then we are having submucosa. Then we are having circular esophageal muscle, and after the circular esophageal muscle we are having longitudinal esophageal muscle, and the outermost layer, this outermost layer is known as the adventitia. Okay, so these are the four layers which are present in the wall of esophagus. So once again we are returning on this figure. So now you will get the idea. So this is the mucosa, then this part is the submucosa, then we are having this part, that is circular longitudinal muscle, and finally we are having adventitia. So now moving on the fourth point. So from here the important discussion starts. Okay, so this is the fourth point. Now which are the structures that are present in the mucosa? So the mucosa, number one, first of all let's see the mucosa. So with the number one they are showing the mucosa, and what is there, what this mucosa is consist of. So in the mucosa, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is present. So for example, this one is the stratified squamous epithelium. This in the mucosa, this one is the stratified squamous epithelium. So you follow this number, okay? On, for example, on 1A they are showing stratified squamous epithelium. Then underneath the stratified squamous epithelium, the thin layer of fine connective tissue is present, which is known as lamina propria. Okay, so this is the stratified epithelium, and just underlying to it, connective tissue layer lamina propria is present. So first striated squamous epithelium, then we are having connective tissue, that is lamina propria, then we are having layer of longitudinal smooth muscle fiber, and this longitudinal smooth muscle fiber are known as muscularis mucosa. So muscularis mucosa 1C. So 1C longitudinal smooth muscle layer, muscularis mucosa. So these three structures, okay, these three structures, 1A, 1B, 1C, okay, I have shown to you. Now in the mucosa, the connective tissue papilla of the lamina propria is indent the epithelium. Okay, for example, this is the connective tissue, okay, connective tissue papilla, and is indenting the epithelium. So what is the meaning of indenting? I'm showing you. For example, these are the finger-like projection, okay, and this is the connective tissue lamina propria. So this lamina propria, so we can say these are the papilla. This one is also papilla, this one is also papilla of lamina propria, and it is going inside the epithelial tissue. So that is the meaning of this point. Okay, now in the lamina propria, smooth in the lamina propria, the small blood vessels are present. They are showing on number 8. Okay, so let's find out number 8. So on number 8, blood vessels are present, okay, in lamina propria. Then small lymphatic nodule and lymphatic tissues are present. So with number 7 number is the lymphatic nodule. Okay, so all these structures are present in the mucosa. So you go through this figure, okay, so this figure is actually the transverse section of the wall of upper esophagus, and this transverse section is stained with the help of stain, hematoxylin and eosin, and we are viewing it under the lower magnification under the microscope. So this is the mucosa. Now what is there in the submucosa? So the submucosa, they are showing with number 3. So this is the third number, okay, this is the third number, submucosa. Okay, now what is there in submucosa? So in submucosa, dense irregular connective tissue are present. Okay, submucosa is made up of dense connective tissue, and in this connective tissue adipose tissue is also present. So let's see on number 12. For example, this is the 12 number, okay, and this is the adipose tissue, and this entire layer is the submucosa, okay. Then this point is written, I am explaining this point, okay. Now what happens, they are written about that in the submucosa with number 2, as you can see, they are talking about the esophageal gland proper, okay. So in the submucosa esophageal gland are present. So for example, this one is the esophageal gland, okay. And this esophageal gland, in this esophageal gland mucus acini is there. And now we know, in the lecture of salivary gland we have learned what is mucus acini. So mucus acini in that it is secreting mucus. So once again, so in the other figure you will get the idea what we are discussing. For example, in this figure, this is the submucosa, okay. These all are this one, these are all esophageal gland proper, okay. And this cell, all this cell, okay, this cell, these are the mucus acini and they are secreting the mucus, okay. And from this gland, as you can see, this is the gland of esophagus, and this one is the duct, of this esophageal gland. So this duct is known as the excretory duct, and this duct, as you can see, this duct is penetrating the connective tissue layer, that is lamina propria, and this duct is passing from the epithelial layer, and finally this duct is opening into the lumen. This duct is opening into the lumen of the esophagus, okay. So all the detail that I have described to you, it is written over here, okay. So I have already described this, okay. And see, the dark stained ductal epithelium of this gland, it merged with the stratified squamous surface of epithelia. For example, what they are saying, that in this figure, this is the duct which is darkly stained, and this is the epithelial layer. So duct is merging with the epithelial layer. So in another figure I am showing you, for example, this is the gland, this one is the duct, and as you can see, this duct is merging with, okay, it is passing from the epithelial layer, okay. So that they have written over here that the excretory duct merge with the epithelial layer, okay. So that is the meaning of this fifth point. Now moving on the Sixth point. Okay. Now, sixth point is regarding the Muscularis Externa. So, inferior to submucosa, this Muscularis Externa is present. For example, over here, this is the submucosa, and inferior to submucosa, this Muscularis Externa is present. Now, what this Muscularis Externa is made up of? So, in Muscularis Externa, the circular muscle layer is present. Okay, so this is the inner circular muscle layer. Okay, and this one, these are outer longitudinal muscle layer, and between this circular and this longitudinal connective tissue is present. So that is the meaning of this layer. Okay, that is the Muscularis Externa. So I have explained this point, and you can check the detail with the number in the figure. Okay, all the number, and you check with this theory point. Now our esophagus, it is not like the smooth muscles are only present. In our esophagus, the skeletal muscle, that are the striated muscles, are also present. So here we are going to remember this thing, that the upper third of the esophagus consists of striated skeletal muscle. Okay, then in the middle third of the esophagus, that we have seen that the inner circular layer and the outer longitudinal layer are present. Okay, once again, in upper third of the esophagus, striated skeletal muscle are present. In the middle third, circular muscle layer, longitudinal, okay, and some skeletal muscles are also present. And in the lower third of esophagus, only smooth muscles are present. So this thing you remember. Okay, so in the figure I am showing you this. For example, in this figure, as you can see, this is the mucosa, then the submucosa, then smooth muscle layer. Okay, and this over here, as you can see, the skeletal muscles also present. So now you have to remember where the skeletal muscles are present and where they are not present. Okay, now one more arrangement I am showing you so that you can understand this thing. For example, this one is the esophagus. Okay, and these are all longitudinal muscle, and this longitudinal muscle, so see, they have cut the window from longitudinal muscle layer, and inside they are showing the circular muscle layer. Okay, so this is how you see that how these longitudinal and how the circular muscles are arranged. Okay, so this is the arrangement of circular and longitudinal muscle. So this is the discussion that we have completed for the point number 6. Now we are moving on the point number 7. Okay, so point number 7 is regarding the Adventitia. So as you can see, this is the Adventitia, and which is the outermost layer of the esophageal wall. And what this Adventitia is made up of? Okay, so in the Adventitia, first of all, what is Adventitia? So it is loose connective tissue layer, and in this Adventitia, adipose tissue is present, blood vessel, that are the artery and vein, are present, and the nerve fibers are also present. Okay, so with this we have completed the seventh point, and now you observe this. So this thing, so this is the, for example, if this is the esophagus, so you imagine how all these layers are arranged. So the bolus, let's say the bolus is over here in the lumen. Okay, so around the bolus, the first layer, it is mucosa, then mucosa followed by submucosa, then we are having muscularis, and finally the outermost adventitia. Okay, and here in this histological slide, for example, E, so what is E? So it is stratified squamous epithelium present around. So this is this part, for example, let's say this box. Okay, so you see this box, they are zooming and they are showing over here. Okay, so E, E means stratified squamous epithelium. LP, LP, lamina propria, connective tissue. Okay, then muscularis mucosa, MM. Okay, then in this slide, this is the longitudinal section of esophagus. SS, squamous epithelium. LP, connective tissue, lamina propria. MM, muscularis mucosa. Okay, then GL, this is the gland, esophageal gland, which is having mucus acini, and this is the duct, excretory duct of esophageal gland, and this duct we know it opens into the lumen. Okay, now here in this slide, ST, striated muscle. SM, smooth muscle. Okay, then you observe this figure also. So you go through this figure also, all the names. And then this figure. Okay, all the names you go through. Okay, then these two names. Okay, these two names, that in the wall of esophagus, esophageal cardiac gland and esophageal gland proper are present. Okay, and what both these glands are doing? So they are secreting the mucus, and you go through the location also where they are present, and basically they are secreting the mucus. And what the role of this mucus? So these are the mucus gland, they are secreting mucus, and as you can see, this mucus lubricate the lumen of esophagus. So this mucus, basically it is facilitating the smooth passage of food material, that is the bolus, towards the stomach. So this paragraph, we can say this is the function of esophagus. Okay, this is the function of esophagus. then this slide. Okay. Now you read this point number 8, then point number 9 you read, and point number 10 you read. Okay, because point number 8, 9 and 10 I have already explained in my lecture on the swallowing. So today in this lecture I am not explaining point number 8, 9, 10 because they are repeated in this lecture, that's why. Okay, and now finally you go through this figure. Okay, you go through this figure. Okay, the names. Okay, so with this we have completed the presentation lecture on the esophagus. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation lecture, and at the same time this lecture will be helpful in your studies and in your exam preparation. My name is Manish Kosti sir. I am from Ahmedabad, India. Bye bye. Namaste.